Hi, and welcome to another edition of Newsmakers Journal of the Vaccine Year. I'm Jerry Roberts. It is Friday, April 16th, and we are joined by our all-star panel of top local journalists, Jade Martinez-Pogue, Nick Welsh, and Josh Molina. Thanks you all for being here. We start as always with the pandemic. Jade, you have been promising on this very show for weeks to get us into the orange tier, and you've so far failed. What is the status of that?
It's looking hopefully like we'll be able to get into the orange tier on Tuesday, next Tuesday. This past Tuesday was the first week that we met all three criteria to advance. So as long as we keep those numbers similar or lower, then we'll be able to move into the next tier on Tuesday, which is good. We've never been in the orange tier before.
All right, and that means what? What can we do that we're not doing now?
Mostly just increase in capacity of indoor activities. I think movie theaters are open to 50% indoors, restaurants 50% or 200 people. Bars can serve alcohol with no food, outdoors only, which is new. Just basically increasing capacity for indoor activities.
How about the gyms? Is Josh, you going back to the gym now, or is that you're still in the red tier on that?
I just came from the gym, Jerry. I ran 6 miles before 6 a.m. trying to get in shape to be on your show. I don't understand your question.
Well, I don't know. Trump has reportedly lost 20 pounds and gotten rid of the highlights in his hair. So you can stop dyeing yours anytime now. Okay, Jade, let me ask you.
At least I still have hair, Jerry. Come on.
Yeah, well, there is that. So Jade, we all talked about our own vaccine situations last week, and you had got the Johnson & Johnson one-shot deal, which you were pretty proud of, and then they halted the administration of it this week because a very small number, I think 6 or 7 women between the ages of 18 and 48 had developed blood clots. Was that scary for you, or what? I'm sure you immediately went online and read everything about it.
It was a little alarming, but just knowing that they did it, out of an extreme abundance of caution. And then if you actually look at the numbers, like I was saying earlier, birth control has a higher rate of risk of blood clots, and even getting the virus itself is like much higher risk of blood clots. So I got the limited edition vaccine before they got taken off the market.
Well, yeah, and you've had COVID, and you've had I mean, you're set. You got everything going on.
Everything going for me.
All right. So pretty good news on the pandemic front. And then the supervisors have started their annual budget hearings for the $1.34 billion county budget, which, Nick, how much is that per man, woman, and child in Santa Barbara County?
That's about 300,000.
Wait a minute, there's too many zeros in there. And isn't it like 3,000?
I don't know.
I think it's $3,000.49, $3,001.49, but I'll check. All right, so the the first big hearing was about criminal justice, and all of the libs on the board apparently are prepared to give everybody a get out of jail free card, or as I like to say, reimagine the criminal justice system. What was going on there?
Well, okay, Jerry. Well, all the violent felons are going to be let out of the county jail, and they're going to camp out in front of your house. Really what it is the Board of Supervisors are throwing their weight around in a, I would say, unprecedented manner in terms of pushing to reverse the trend of the past 30 years, which is sort of, caricaturized as lock them up and throw away the key justice. And so now it's like, we can't afford to do that anymore. We don't have the space for it. So we need to get people out of jail before they get in there in the first place. And, so it's all part of the post-George Floyd reform and reimagine and, defund if you want, the police. But the idea is the only place you can find to fund the programs to keep people out of jail is by taking money from the jail in the first place. And given that we're about to open a new jail up in North County, and we have massive repairs to make on the jail down here, that's going to be a tough push comes to shove. And probably the most specific thing that's going to come out of all this is all these years we've been arguing about this stuff. It's not new, but the forcefulness of the pushing and shoving. I don't think I've ever seen Joyce Dudley, the district attorney, pushed as hard as she was, and I haven't seen her push back as hard as she pushed back.
And
that was
both,
sort of
go finish your thought. Yeah, but both Josh, both Joyce Dudley and Bill Brown, who also pushed back, are elected officials on their own. I mean, they don't really report to the supervisors, except the supervisors control their budget. Josh, don't you think that Joyce Dudley is probably the most popular elected official in the county?
I mean, she's probably right behind Doss Williams, Jerry.
Oh, stop. He's taunting me.
Joyce Dudley is yes, I agree, extremely well respected, very popular, and one of Nick Welch's favorites over the years.
Well, and she said she and Brown both pushed back at this hearing, and Jade, you were there too, so jump in. But push back on this. I mean, Brown said, yeah, there's only 600 people in jail, or 600 and some, but these are not, people who got traffic stops. I think about 10% of them were charged with murder, and the vast majority are serious felonies. And then Joyce said, my heart hurts for victims here for what she's hearing. Everything was on the side of the perpetrators. What did you make of that conflict?
It was honestly all just super confusing. Well, let alone it was a 9-hour meeting, but I feel like the information was just different from all the departments. Like the sheriff's office was giving different numbers than the DA's office and the public defenders. So it was kind of honestly hard to follow for a minute, but Tracy McCouga, she made an impression. I think
The
she
public
did.
defender.
I think she did really well in advocating why the department needs more money and what they're actually doing.
What was all this about the dashboard?
that's actually the one thing that may come out of here is that that meeting more than anything highlighted the need for, okay, who's on first? To have some set of information that everybody can agree what the facts are, because the public defender saying, giving one impression, the DA is giving another, the sheriff's giving another, and there is no agreed upon set of facts. Yolo County, which apparently has a quite conservative district attorney up there, has agreed to do its sort of community justice dashboard so that you can look how many people are being charged at any given time, with what kind of crimes, what kind of racial breakdown is it? So are white people getting off light, or are brown and black people getting hammered? And at what point in the process does diversion enter the picture or doesn't it enter the picture?
Why is this so difficult to know?
It's a really good question, and there is suspicion that nobody likes to let the world know their numbers. In the past, the sheriff has said, "Oh my God, we have an antiquated, data collection system. We need an IT person to help manage it." The supervisor said, "Here, you want a data manager? We're just going to fund you one." And they have a hard time then filling it, and those who are skeptical would say, well, maybe the sheriff really doesn't want the information out there, because then people can argue better how he needs to change it.
Well, the other thing is, the sheriff did note that the crime rate is going up, and this is happening across the country. It's not just happening in Santa Barbara County. And maybe it's not, cause and effect. Maybe it's just coincidence that that's happening at a time when we have all these rehabilitation push. in the criminal justice system. But
I don't know if it would be because of the rehabilitation push so much, though I understand that argument. I think COVID has, COVID, the joblessness, that is attendance, the fact that people aren't going to school. I think that for people with short and long fuses, this is a good time to blow up. And I think that a lot of people have been doing just that.
all right.
With or without sort of the touchy-feely factor that you want to, castigate it as.
I mean, I really think there's an overcorrection going on. If you look at, I mean, the DA, the new DA in LA, they're trying to recall him. The new DA in San Francisco, they're trying to recall him. And Josh, you know what happens when the crime rate goes up politically. This kind of stuff there's going to be, the voters are not going to put up with it. So, all right. Speaking of not putting up with things, Josh, the La Patera school, is that correct? You had a very interesting story that the outgoing superintendent in the Goleta Union School District has reassigned 3 apparently very popular teachers. You usually have parents, complaining because they want to get rid of teachers. And here you have parents really loudly complaining they want to keep these teachers. So what's the story on that?
Yeah, this was an interesting flare-up at a Goleta school, La Patera, and essentially the superintendent reassigned 3 elementary school level teachers, and they are she's sending them to 3 different schools in the district. And you had this uproar from parents who were saying, why are you doing this? Give us a reason for doing this and don't do this. And it's coupled with the fact that the superintendent is leaving. And so they're wondering why she's making this decision. It's been pretty hush hush. They had a meeting. Of course, these people spoke during public comment, and the administration.
Did the teachers speak?
The teachers did not speak because they're afraid to talk. They don't want to be seen as being people who are causing a big scene, because they're concerned about retaliation and backlash. So the parents are speaking on their behalf. They spoke during public comment. So the administration says, we don't want to violate the Brown Act, so we don't want to say anything. And of course, you can say things without violating the Brown Act, but the board members chose to say nothing. So essentially what you have is La Patera, which has a large population of socioeconomic disadvantaged students. And so it's like the second highest number of all the schools in Goleta. And so you have parents who are saying, we're just coming off this pandemic. We've been talking about the learning loss. The achievement cap was large beforehand. It's been enhanced now. And we love these teachers. And now you're sending these teachers elsewhere, and you're not telling us why. And so there's perception that this is a demotion. It's shrouded in sort of mystery. The teachers were not given a reason. They were just told that you will.
What did the union do? Did the union do anything?
Well, apparently the union is not done anything, or they're supportive of it. The superintendent, Donna Lewis, said the union is aware, and at that time, at least before the story, there was no pushback, at least from what the superintendent told me in a one-on-one interview prior to the meeting. And so, this is a thing where, the Goleta School District is about the same size as the Santa Barbara Elementary School District, if you're just looking through K through 6. So we're not talking about, we're talking about a big deal. We're talking about a lot of kids who are, like 3,400 kids in the elementary school district who are potentially going to be impacted by this change. They're moving from La Patera. So we'll see. I don't know if there'll be any backpedaling on the part of the administration. My guess is there could be, because there's enough of a parental uproar. And
it sounds a little bit like an Eddie Behrens type situation almost, although Behrens was obviously very vocal in his own behalf, but we haven't heard from the teachers.
Yeah, and then also complicating things is they just appointed a new La Patera principal at that same meeting. So very bad timing. Hey, meet our new principal.
And are the
Public comment. We
the
don't want
kids
you
in
to transfer
Goleta,
teachers.
they're
What?
back in the classroom, right? The kid.
Yeah, Goleta was the first one. They sent all their kids back Monday through Friday, all day. Now Santa Barbara is going to be following suit. But yeah, they were one of the first ones to go back full time.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of interesting housing stuff out there this week. Josh, you had a piece about how the vacancy rate has actually gone up for rentals. And Nick, you had a really good column about, I guess, a friend who's trying to buy a house that really illustrates what the market is like. How do you account for the vacancy rate, Josh?
Well, vacancy rate for apartments has been about 0.5%, basically,
basically
almost
zero, right?
non-existent for many years. And obviously that's because Santa Barbara was not friendly to developers who proposed apartments up until this new AUD program. So that started in 2013. And so now we're seeing more construction, more units start to hit the market. And so according to one report, and with these vacancy real estate reports, they vary, but according to one, there's about a 4.4% vacancy for apartments. And so that's big. That's a new thing. And the realtor community is saying it's because we're seeing more supply, right? So,
so they're crediting the AUD.
Yes, and obviously they benefit from crediting the AUD because the more housing, the more business. And then at the same time, people are buying homes. The housing market is super hot right now. And so we're seeing sort of real estate being this market that's not been impacted negatively by the pandemic, and you have more availability. Now, there are others who say it's sort of a temporary cog in the wheel. It's like an anomaly. We just don't have a lot of students who are here, who are typically here during this time. So the other line of thinking is that we have this vacancy rate, but it's a little bit artificial because the students aren't here because UCSB and City College is remote, but that once it goes back to in person, that we're going to see that vacancy rate shore up. So
Yeah,
it's one of those things.
Go ahead, finish.
It goes to that larger debate that we're having, which is, do we need to build more housing? Everybody sort of says yes, but nobody has identified where we should build it. And we need more units for, sort of for renters. We need more units for that middle income. And the state is breathing down the neck of all municipalities to have more housing. So there's a massive push. It's an issue in the city council election. It's going to be an issue in the election, particularly with Kristen Sneddon and her opponent. And so it's a thing to know that, or do we actually have more availability coming online? And then there's the Sheila Lodges of the world, your friend Jerry, who's
well, right, who's correctly pointed out that the FAR, which Nick will explain in a moment, would result in a canyon of high buildings. The Manhattanization Megan Harmon is pushing that with her pal Manhattanization Mike Jordan. But Nick, your neighbor, I guess, is trying to buy a house. That was the saddest story because everybody is bidding more for houses than they're listed.
Well, yeah, it's crazy. Just to go back on Josh's story, I saw the one line in your story that really popped was Ed St. George, the landlord who has made a really good career renting to people in Isla Vista, renting to people in City College, saying that there's 35,000 students who are not occupying their places. And when they come back, that's going to, he didn't say this, but this is what I interpreted it, it's going to totally overwhelm however many few new units we have from the AUDs. So we have a nice bubble. But yeah, I was riding my bike home and a neighbor's running down Valerio Street and we do the chat. He put a bid in on a home, nice fixer upper with a lot of work, $960,000, which on the face of it in my neighborhood, which is the west side, is really way high. And then, the song and dance, he had to go do a performance. He had to basically sell himself as a good citizen, and write an essay that he was going to get along with the neighbors. And then at the end of the day, it's listed for $960 and it sells for 1.3 and change. And so I called up a friend of mine who's been in the real estate business for about 40 years. And he said, yeah, he says, when I first asked him, there was 3 homes on the market for less than $1 million, from Carpinteria to Gaviota.
3?
3, and now it's increased, I think, to 5. And he just says the stuff sells so fast.
And
It's
the,
on
and
the
the stuff
market.
that's, yeah, and the stuff that's like 3 million and over, which I think is pretty hot as well. Those are all cash deals. People
Right.
are paying cash for them. So,
And I got a letter from somebody, he lives in Carpinteria, and he says, yeah, he lives in a condo complex down there. He said, yeah, they just sold a condo for, way over $1 million, and the people are sitting on it. It's like out-of-town visitors. This is the sort of the food in the microwave story we hear a lot about. The out-of-town visitors who just want to, have a nice place in their hip pocket for when they come to town, so they don't have to stay in a motel.
yeah,
And
all
otherwise,
of this makes me begin to side with our old friend Ernie Solomon, who says this whole exercise in affordable housing and all of these things we're trying to do is just, it defies the laws of arithmetic, basically.
But before you go over to the dark side of the invisible hand of supply and demand, the reality was the city of Santa Barbara, about 12 to 13% of its housing stock is affordable, capital A affordable, because of the housing authority, because of the now defunct redevelopment agency. And it has made a big difference. It just, the redevelopment agency went out of business about 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
You're always pissing up a rope here, Jerry, but you can get an umbrella for that.
All right. We'll.
Did you notice that metaphor, Josh?
Yeah, that's very good. All right. I just real quick back up on the budget, Jade. You obviously stomped Nick with your second piece, which was about health and human services budget hearings. But there was one thing in there that said that child support services makes $3.43 for every dollar spent. How does that happen? I didn't understand that.
To be completely honest, I am not exactly sure either. It was a really good accomplishment for the department.
Every department should do that. If every department did that, we would be well off. Yeah, that was a strange thing, but I think the overall takeaway from your story was that the social services in general is concerned because a lot of the COVID money is going away. At the same time, the client base is going to increase. So once again, the law of supply and demand is going to be hurting there. Was that what you were hearing?
Yeah, I think, all the CalFresh and the CalWorks and even rental assistance was really helping out during the pandemic. And as it starts to expire, I think that's definitely going to take a hit.
Yeah. All right. Henry, be quiet. All right, we got to go. Josh, who's on the podcast this week?
Well, Jerry, my podcast resonates with the people. I don't interview bureaucrats to talk about the color of paint on the asphalt. I'm actually interviewing people who are doing things. So I'm interviewing Josette Cacique, who's the Zumba extraordinaire of the world. And we talk about all the things you care about, Jerry. We talk about intuition, about being an introvert, about self-healing, about changing your life and your diet.
Did she give you a break? Did she give you a 15% break on the classes? Are you going to go to Zumba now? All right.
I'm a man of ethics, Jerry. I'm not going to mix business with pleasure. So
what do you, Jade, are you all tied up with budget for the foreseeable future, I guess?
Luckily, I didn't have to do today's budget hearing. I'm thankful for that one, but I do have a story coming out about the Central Coast Water Authority they're saying that the county is at a disadvantage because none of the other state water contractors want to do business with us because the board hasn't adopted one of the amendments yet. So
All right.
that'll be
Okay.
coming out.
Which
The
will-
famous Amendment 21.
Yeah.
very, very relevant in our thing that we're not allowed to call a drought emergency yet, according to Prince Gavin. But Nick, what are you working on?
Well, I'm working on the same one. I'm working on a cold case murder story.
Oh, yeah? Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Not the one up in San Luis.
No, not that one, but, you know, we're working, somebody else here is working on that one.
All right. And Josh's cruel and toxic attack on my interview with Rob Dayton, the transportation czar, who actually had a lot of interesting things to say. And I can reveal exclusively, after all of my complaining, they're changing the neon green paint to forest green for all things going forward, which is also apparently allowed by the Federal Transportation.
But Gary, you can now say that journalism has affected change.
I'm telling you, Newsmakers gets
You
results.
have tipped the needle.
Newsmakers gets results. All right, thanks, Jade. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Josh. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time on Newsmakers.
All righty.
Take care.